focus on one pasuk in Parshat Beshalach. Pasuk speaks about the story after Klal Yisrael crossed the Yam Suf, right? Zekeli and Vehu, they're able to see a Kadosh Baruch Hu with such clarity. They then come to a place called Mara, and they weren't able to drink the water in Mara, Kimarimeh, because the waters were bitter. So the people cried out, "What shall we drink?" So Moshe Rabbeinu cried out to Hashem, source 1, and Hashem showed him a tree, Vayarei Hashem eitz, and he threw it into the water, and the water became sweet. And there he established for the nation a decree and an ordinance, Sham Sam Lo Chok U'Mishpat V'Sham Nisahu. And he said, and here's the pasuk for today, if you hearken diligently to the voice of Hashem, etc., and you do what is just in his eyes, and you give ear to his commandments, and observe all his decrees, then Hashem promises us that all the diseases that I placed upon Egypt, I will not bring upon you, for I am Hashem, your healer. Ki ani Hashem rofecha. And obviously, the classic question that the Farshim ask, and Rashi among them, is if Hashem makes a promise that he's not going to put any of the illnesses of Egypt on you, then why do we need Hashem as a healer? Ki ani Hashem rofecha. There's going to be no disease that we need healing. And Rashi answers this in his beautiful style, where Rashi says in source number 3, Ulefi pshuto ki ani Hashem rofecha, umelamdecha Torah u'mitzvot leman tinatzel mihem. I am Hashem, your healer, who's going to teach you Torah mitzvot. That is the way that you're going to be saved from these illnesses, like a rofeh, like a doctor that says to a person, don't eat certain foods because your illnesses will return. Ki ani Hashem rofecha, I am the ultimate healer, not only the one that heals you from illness, but the one who's going to tell you how to make sure not to return to those illnesses, and that is by following Torah mitzvos. Rashi is touching on another question, which is the main question that I Mirz Hashem like to focus it on today. Really, the secondary question is this question of Ki ani Hashem rofecha. But the major question is, why is this pasuk of that I will not place any of the illnesses on Egypt upon you, because I am God your healer, why is it found specifically in this section of Mara, of the bitter waters, and God placing a tree in the waters and making the waters sweet, and they're giving the Jewish people Torah mitzvos, and it's within this context that we are told that Hashem is our healer. What is the overall context here? What can we learn about God being the ultimate healer from it being found in this particular context? That's the question that I'd like to Mirz Hashem address today. One question, we'll see a number of perhaps different approaches to answering it. I'd like to, before we even begin our study, begin with a side note, a ha'ara, and I think it's a very important ha'ara, and almost a disclaimer before I begin. We know that there are certain topics that we can speak about that set off knee-jerk reactions, and it's interesting because when I schmoozed this shir over with Rachel, her knee-jerk reaction was exactly what I was afraid may happen to many other people. And because of her reaction, albeit being only Baruch Hashem 12 years old, I want to begin with this disclaimer. And that is, we're going to be talking here about illness. We're going to be talking about God being the healer. We're going to be talking about sickness. And we're going to be talking about why, at some level, on a spiritual level, why sickness and illness come upon a person. And one of the ideas that we're going to see running throughout here is the idea of, and the Mizikenim et Bonam brings it immediately in source number 3. He says sometimes sickness comes. He notes here in 3. Kol ason kol tzara ba'al adam. In the 4th paragraph, all illness and difficulties that come unto a person, novat v'echad mishtei tzibo, can come for one or two reasons. Lefamim zehu nisayon. Sometimes it's a challenge, it's a test that Hashem sends to this person to purify this person, to elevate this person, to make this person a more sensitive, higher level individual. Ulefamim zehu onesh. And sometimes it's a punishment. And this is my disclaimer before moving on. I can hear people immediately saying, thinking about Lo Aleinu, people who we know are sick and people who we know need a refuah. Like, what have they done wrong? And obviously, somebody who is sick, we never say to them, this is an onesh. This is a punishment for you. We're talking about how an individual needs to look at themselves and the introspection of every individual in their own lives. That's clear straight off the bat what we're talking about. But I need to explain this idea of onesh a bit, and then I'd like to really begin. I think part of our knee-jerk reaction, aside from the emotional, is we are very much influenced by the Western civilization and the Christendom mindset that comes with the Western civilization. And we look at punishment as, burning in hell and that imagery. And punishment has very